Greetings, session heads, and welcome to another episode of Colorado Sessions. I'm here at the Windy Ridge Bristlecone Pine area in the Mosquito Range, and it's beautiful. These trees, some of them are 1,500 years old, and they're really cool. They twist in the wind, and they're very, very interesting trees. I biked up here this morning, a beautiful bike ride. I went up by Buckskin Creek, and then I turn off on this mining road to climb up here, and it's very peaceful. Not many people come up to this side of the mountain, so I kind of have the area to myself, and I thought it was a good place to talk to you guys about a brewery, a craft brewery that I visited recently, the Glenwood Canyon Brewpub in Glenwood Springs. I got to go there. I had dinner there actually recently when I was traveling in the area for some shows. And first of all, Glenwood Springs, really cool town. It's at the base of Glenwood Canyon, which is a very narrow, high canyon that's where the Colorado River just cuts down on its way to the western slope. And it is high cliff walls, very narrow, white water right at your side. It is an engineering marvel that they were able to not only get the interstate through there, but also the railroad and a recreational trail for biking and running and such. At the base of that canyon, right as the canyon opens up, is Glenwood Springs, and it is where I believe it's the Roaring Forks River comes in and joins the Colorado, and that's where Glenwood Springs is. And as the name Springs would imply, there's hot mineral springs there, and I think they're the largest or one of the largest mineral springs around, hot mineral springs. And they've really built an infrastructure around it for tourism, so it's easy to go there and hang out and enjoy the hot water after a day of hiking or whatever it is you're doing there, because there's a lot you can do in that area. Hanging Lake is nearby, which is a really spectacular and very popular hike in Colorado up to a beautiful lake. There's an amusement park at the top of the mountain. You, of course, can whitewater raft and kayak. You can rent a bike and take the bike trail up the Colorado. You're a hop, skip, and a jump from the Elk Mountains and Aspen and all that. So it's a really great town with shops and restaurants and stuff for tourists. It's got a neat downtown, I think, because where the road heads off to Aspen, it's elevated part of the way through the downtown until it joins the terrain as it climbs from the Colorado River. And so part of their downtown has this really wide overpass over it, and underneath it they've got all the tables for the restaurants, and they have live music and vendors and things like that. It's really cool. It gives the downtown a very unique feel if you're walking around and just enjoying the evening. And right in that section, near that section, is this Glenwood Canyon Brewpub, and I went there for dinner. The vibe is sort of like a restaurant pub. So they do brew beer there. It is a brewery, but it really feels like a comfortable pub restaurant. So, and that's why I went there. The food was great. I asked my server what she recommended, and she said the enchiladas were her favorite. So I got those, and she was spot on because I really liked them. They were covered in mole sauce, and I love mole sauce. The beers, so I got a flight of beer to try them out. So I got, I tend to like, pale ales and stuff, so I got a few of those, but I did get one darker beer. I couldn't help but notice as I sat there eating my dinner, working on my computer a little bit, that on the wall above me, there were numerous plaques of all the awards they've won at the Denver Beer Festival, which is a very prestigious beer festival, and they have won many awards. So they are a decorated brewery. They know what they're doing, and it shows. The beer was rock solid. Two beers stood out to me. One was they had an IPA called Dad IPA, and they described it as a throwback to the early days of craft beer in Colorado. And I thought that was really interesting to me, that the Colorado craft beer scene is old enough now that you can have nostalgia about it, that there's a throwback IPA now. And it did. It reminded me of how IPAs tasted when all this got going, because IPAs have really evolved a little bit. It's sort of like if you're listening to 90s hip hop, you'd be like, oh yeah, the 90s. Or if it was 80s rock, you're like, yeah, that's the 80s. I can kind of picture how people dress and feel like the 80s. Or if you're looking at a piece of architecture that's Art Deco, it evokes a time period. And this beer did that. As soon as I tasted it, I was like, oh yeah, this puts me back to when like craft beer was just coming around, and you're like, oh, that's what it tastes like. It really did remind me, which I found very interesting and fun. The other beer that stood out to me was, and it stood out because it was my favorite, and it's not my usual. If you've been following along, you know that I like the lighter, crisper IPAs, pale ales. And this was a Mexican dark lager called Negro, Lago Negro, it was called. And I don't usually go for those types of beers, but it was really good. It was light, it wasn't too heavy, even though it was dark, and it had a really good taste to it. And then when I really took a closer look at all of their awards, I realized a lot of their awards were for beers that were more balanced on the malty side than the hoppy side of the spectrum. So a lot of the gold medals and things that they won were for brown ales, red ales, porters, stouts. So now it makes sense to me that this dark Mexican lager, Lago Negro, was, you know, was the one that really I liked the most, and it paired very well with the enchiladas and the mole sauce. So beer was very good. And then after I walked around, there was a farmer's market going on in that area I described underneath the overpass, and there's a pedestrian bridge that you can walk and go over the Colorado, so you can look down on the Colorado, and everybody was just having a good time. The sun was setting, the weather was perfect. It was exactly what the doctor ordered. So if you're headed west on I-70 to the Western Slope, or coming east from the Western Slope, you know, spend an evening in Glenwood Spring and really go poke around in the downtown and take a look, because there's lots of great little shops and restaurants and this brewery. Definitely go to Glenwood Canyon Brewpub and get a good dinner and a nice pint of beer, watch the Colorado River, and then walk around and enjoy the local flavor. But at any rate, until next time, I'll see you. I hope to see you on the road or on these virtual episodes. Oh, you can of course find Colorado Sessions on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I have a website, www.coloradosessions.com. Hope to see you at a show sometime, or let me know if you have any feedback or questions or any constructive criticism. I'm open to what you guys think about this. But at any rate, until then, here's to Colorado. Drink it all in.